Okay, everybody. Happy Mars Day. It is June 4th, 2024. Had a random pop-up storm. And I thought today would be a great day to do a cozy card pool. Because we have an aspect going on in the sky today involving Venus. It's what we call Cazimi in Gemini. So Cazimi means in the heart of. So when we have a Venus Cazimi, it means it is in the heart of the sun. It's an astro way of saying it is conjunct the sun. And because it is Gemini season, that means we have a conjunction of the sun and Venus in Gemini. We also have, at the moment, the moon in Taurus, which the moon loves being in Taurus. Taurus is ruled by Venus. But adding a little twist is, I want to say, probably around right now, around 7:05 p.m., we have a conjunction of the moon with Uranus in Taurus. So Uranus being an outer planet moves quite slow, so it's been hovering around 23, 24 degrees of Taurus for a minute now. So the conjunction of the moon and Uranus in Taurus is about 7:05 p.m. at about 24 degrees, 24 minutes of Taurus. So that's happening at the same time as Venus, Cazimi, the sun, and one sign, the next sign ever, Gemini. So we've got fixed earth and mutable air aspects kind of flavoring the energy today. So I just was interested to see what kind of card pool. Oop, there we go. So this is my Secret Garden deck. It's just got these fun little messages. So retreat. Never underestimate the healing power of a quiet moment. Isn't that what this cozy card pool is all about? And at the bottom, dare. Take a risk and fly. That sounds extremely moon conjunct Uranus and Taurus. And flying, definitely associated with Gemini. It's interesting because we have so much activity in Gemini right now. Not only do we have the sun and Venus, but we also have Jupiter, which is now a little over a week in to Gemini, and that will be the case for the next year. We've got Mercury also there, so lots of Gemini energy, which can feel quite chaotic, but exciting too. So we've got retreat and dare. So now we're going to pull something from this Star Codes Astro deck. Let's just see what comes up. Sometimes just ASMR, like playing with the cards. Whether you're watching someone else do it or doing it yourself can be quite soothing. I don't know. I guess you just have to be the kind of person that enjoys, I guess, what you would call having your brain massaged with very specific sounds. Oh, there we go. 8th house, very interesting. 8th house, mystery. The imagery is quite self-explanatory there, but the 8th house, as you may or may not know, is associated with Pluto and Scorpio. It is the house of the occult, of what is underneath the surface, below the surface. It's associated with like depth psychology and shared resources and merging and intimacy. The other, yourself and other, the merging of yourself with another, shared resources, death and rebirth. It is the house of Pluto, and it's where I actually happen to have my natal Mercury. And what's interesting about Mercury being natally in the 8th house is Mercury associated with the god Hermes. He was a messenger and son of Zeus, and he was the only one of the Olympians that could go into the underworld, the realm of Pluto, and come back unscathed. And so you often will find, I have grown to learn this about myself, but I think other people with prominent placements in the 8th house find themselves kind of thematically in the world of the 8th house throughout the course of their lives, whether they really choose that or not. Tends to just choose you, as I have found. So the 8th house, we have that as our star codes energy. And, the fact that we have Pluto in Aquarius retrograde right now, currently forming a harmonious aspect, a trine aspect, you would say, to both Jupiter and Mercury, which are at the very beginning of Gemini. And we call that a trine because it's a harmonious flow of energy. So 8th house themes are probably coming up for a lot of people because it is a time of sort of transformation, like metaphorical death and rebirth, and in some cases actual death. I find that the last couple months have been colored by loss across lots of people's lives in many different forms, but sadly often in the literal sense. So now here we go. At the bottom of the deck, underlying energy, we have the 10th house, authority. The 10th house is what we often would, it's what we would associate as the culmination point. It's where your MC line or midheaven line, if you've ever had your birth chart done, sometimes your MC can be in the 9th or 11th. Those are more rare cases, but generally it's the cusp of the 10th house. And it's where your sense of authority comes from, like where, how other people see you out in the world, like what your legacy ends up being. You could say career, but it kind of goes beyond that. It's more so of like your reputation, like what you are known for, how you assert yourself in the world. So we've got that as our underlying bottom of the deck energy. And I've explained to people before who are kind of new to tarot, and they just are kind of exploring as a means for self-discovery and creative problem solving, honestly, is another great thing about tarot that it can do for you. I like to explain the bottom of the deck energy as sort of like the whole, why am I even here for this message? So, we've got our actual card pool, like a message, but underlying, it's almost like giving context for what actually came out on the card pool. So far, that would mean our why am I even here energy for this reading would be dare, take a risk, and fly. And then 10th house, authority. You might say that this is sort of painting a picture here about finding courage, finding your inner authority, and whatever that means for you. That's kind of the beauty of tarot, especially when a card pull is done for a collective audience. It sort of finds you where you are, and that's different for everyone, but there's, at the same time, it's also strangely similar in terms of the themes. The quality of the moment that we're all living in tends to ring similar in all of our lives. So the next thing I'm going to do is pull from, this is probably my favorite deck. It's the Alchemy deck. It's a Kim Krantz deck, and it is probably my absolute favorite deck out of all. So we're just going to see what comes out here from this Alchemy deck. You can see them a little bit tedious sometimes. I've had days to where I just shuffle and work with the cards, and it's like the messages are resisting. Sometimes I take that as a message to stop looking for an external message, and I just sort of take the hint and go, all right, that's enough card pulling. But today we're gonna see if there's something that we can't work with for this Venus Cazimi in Gemini energy. Oh, there we go. We've got coagulation. And I'll go to the guidebook so that you can get a better idea of these meanings. Kind of put the pieces together for yourself in the context of your own life right now. I'll try to get like one or two more of these. I think that is a bit too many. I find it really interesting when you work with different decks, how they will strangely weave together in ways that never fail to amaze me. That's why I don't like to get too many cards, because at a certain point it becomes a little bit oversaturated and you want to really try to extract something of use. That's at least my approach to tarot. Almost creating new connections in your brain, and there's no better time than all these planets in Gemini, especially Jupiter and Mercury, to create new connections in your brain, new ways of looking at things. Because I will say, when you have a buildup of planets in Gemini, your brain's going to be doing a little bit of overload. It's going to be on overload whether you like it or not, so you might as well give it something. You might as well be the master of it, I should say. You might as well give it some direction. And so, creative inspiration can often come by creating new connections in places that you haven't yet explored. And with the moon conjunct Uranus in Taurus, sort of a crossing of your emotional world, the moon, with the element of surprise, like sort of boom, like a strike of lightning, stroke of genius sometimes, or a brilliant idea just comes to you, like, innovative. And sometimes that can apply to our emotional world. And if you are suffering loss of any kind, or grieving, or at a sort of transition point in your life, a new way of looking at things, particularly your emotional world, can be a really welcome thing. And so I always say you need to feel your feelings without becoming them. And it's a fine line, because you don't want to bury them down and stuff them down. You want to feel them, but do not become them. And so sometimes going through your own little dark night and traversing through the underworld, especially if you've never been there, you need new tools. Sometimes the old tools aren't going to help you because you're somewhere you haven't been. And that's where tarot can come in for some people. So I hope you find this, whenever it finds you, to be of some use, guidance, inspiration. It doesn't matter that it won't be June, it might not be June 4th, 2024, and the moon might not be in Taurus, and it might not be conjunct Uranus, but I find that the algorithm works in very strange ways. Sometimes things will pop up And you'll wonder, why in the world is this on my screen right now? Why am I coming across this in my algorithm? And it never fails to amaze me. And I just watch, kind of out of curiosity, how there always seems to be something in there for me, even when I'm not looking for it. So maybe this message will reach you when you need it the most. Looking for that sense of inner authority to help navigate whatever you have going on in your life, where you don't really have anyone there to give you that validation. Sometimes we need that. Sometimes it's helpful. It's a form of support and, like, you know, sort of that North Star for us, but you might find that you have to be your own North Star at times. And so I'm here to give you maybe a way to get there. Be your own shining light, your own authority. Well, we are going to go with the one that showed its face to us. Calcification. It's interesting how the colors, I always look at the imagery, and it's fascinating how they will always seem to speak to one another. Like, these both have hexagons in the center. The colors are similar. I just find this really interesting because in another deck, Kim Krantz's Archetypes deck, there's a card called the Underworld, and it's a circular card, and the design on this coagulation card looks a lot like the Underworld card in her other deck. It was the first Kim Krantz deck I got, so I'm very familiar with it. I just find that's really interesting. So we've got calcification, coagulation at the bottom, silver. We've got the moon. The moon is, silver is associated with the moon. Every planet is associated with the metal. Gold is what you associate with the sun. So this is the moon, silver, calcification, coagulation. So we're gonna actually put these here. We'll go back to get some explanations in the guidebook for these alchemy cards in a moment, but I will use my last deck here for this message. This is the Aquarian Tarot deck, and it's very, very similar. It doesn't deviate too much from the Rider-Waite-Smith illustrations. Some of the decks, you kind of have to really know tarot quite well to know what the corresponding traditional card is, but this is pretty similar, so I really like it. And aside from, you know, bias, my Aquarian bias is an Aquarius, Sun, and Mercury, I just basically had no choice but to get this. So we're gonna get a couple of cards from the Aquarian Tarot and see how we can pull this all together. One of my favorite things to do, honestly, is the pulling it all together. Really challenges my creative mind in a way that few other activities can. All right. All right. King of Cups. As you may or may not know, cups are associated with emotions. So it seems apt that after my little spiel about emotions and new pathways to process them, first card out would be King of Cups. It's one of the court cards of the minor arcana. And I would say the King of Cups is like sort of like the card of like emotional availability, sort of ready to share your emotions in its most simplest form. Now what's interesting is the next card out, so we have the Sun card reversed. That's a major arcana, and we'll get to that in a minute. And now we've got, interesting, the King of Pentacles. Got two kings here, and then the Sun reversed. At the bottom, we've got the Strength card. Really interesting. So this is also major arcana. So we've got two major arcana, the Sun and Strength. And we got two kings, minor arcana, King of Cups, King of Pentacles. Pentacles associated with resources, whether that's literally like money, finances, but also energetic resources, like sort of your like energetic currency, because after all, like our relationships are built upon exchange, not just emotional, but energetic exchange. Like you can't be the person that shows up and feels true fulfillment in a group of friends without giving something of yourself. And that doesn't mean, necessarily emotional offloading or bearing, the deepest parts of your emotional world to people, but energetically, you find that the most satisfying friendships or gatherings are when everybody comes with their own sort of energetic self-sufficiency. And sometimes we kind of have to, like, it ebbs and flows, so we have to sort of lean on our friends more for that like energetic boost. And then sometimes we have more to give than our friends, and that itself can be satisfying when you show up with like as the main giver of the energetic currency of the gathering. And so just like any other relationship, platonic or romantic, it's always a give and take. It's rarely 50-50, and that's the benefit of our relationships, I find. So, here in this underlying energy with the Strength card, the Strength card is exactly what it looks like. It's associated actually with Leo, the sign of Leo, which, that doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to involve, you don't have to be a Leo, you don't have to have prominent Leo placements. It's just associated with the sign of Leo. And the Strength card is often, in the traditional Rider-Waite, it's got a girl in like a white gown with a lemniscate above her head, and she's like gently, her hands are around like the mouth of a lion. It's like she's sort of gently urging the lion's mouth closed, without force though. Like the lion doesn't look threatened, and she doesn't look like she feels under threat. It's a very delicate balance between courage and vulnerability. And so that's really what the Strength card is about. And this is one of those situations where knowing the traditional Rider-Waite Smith illustration is helpful in giving an understanding of this. So it's sort of suggesting that maybe looking at strength, like as the underlying energy, maybe you could stand to consider like what strength is to you. And so I kind of go back over here to this 10th house and the sense of authority, like what you're known for out in the world, like your reputation, ultimately what you will be, how you will be seen as asserting yourself in the world. And I look at this underlying energy of strength, and you know, these two cards seem great. These seem like someone who has energy of themselves to give and has like emotions, like emotional availability, like something to contribute in the emotional sense. But yet the sun being upside down suggests that there's a lack of fulfillment. And so, you know, that's why it's hard. Some people like to look at past, present, future, or mind, body, spirit. There are tons of different spreads, but I kind of look at energies as concurrent, because even if you were to look at past, present, future, you know, past could mean yesterday, today, and like next week. This could mean last year, today, and next year. It's sort of, I find, arbitrary to really obsess over, is this me now, or is this me in the past? Is this me now, or is this, am I moving into this? Like, how soon am I moving into this? They're all here. So these are all energies associated with whoever this message is for. And the whole benefit of looking at it this way is that all these are available to you. Like if the sun makes an appearance and it's in reverse, the sun still made an appearance. It's telling you that it could easily become the sun like this. And the sun is associated with ultimate fulfillment, like in every way possible. It's like the happiness card. In the traditional Rider-Waite method, it shows like this baby. It's like baby, like naked in all of its glory, sitting on top of a horse with like, I believe it's like a rod with like ribbons, like in the sun shining, and it looks almost like a parade of just happiness. Like, I've got everything I've ever wanted. Life is so grand right now. And so the sun is like ultimate happiness. You always want to see the sun up, right? But the fact that it's here in reverse, and then we've got these two upright kings, suggests that you've got what you need, but clearly maybe we need to look at this underlying energy, the strength. Like, is it possible that that maybe a little too much emphasis is being put on courage as opposed to like the vulnerability? Maybe showing more of yourself, like the vulnerability side of things is what could get you to here. Because, you know, again, this tells me that this is somebody who's solid. Like, they have these energies. Being in the upright is something to really be proud of, honestly. And clearly is something that you could be a contribution to, just like in a one-on-one relationship, a work situation, or a group of friends. But maybe you're somebody that overextends yourself to others. Maybe the thing you have going for you is that other people can be vulnerable around you, which is awesome. But maybe part of the exchange that's missing is that you don't feel you can be vulnerable around others. And like, one thing I found is, you know, just like you want to feel good about yourself and proud that you have courage, that you can be there and be strong for other people, you need to give other people the chance to be that for you. And this suggests that somewhere inside, you know, that somewhere inside the exchange could stand to be tweaked a little bit, because maybe your higher self, a part that is sort of learning about like merging with others. We're gonna go to this 8th house here. Intimacy, yeah, that can mean sexual intimacy, like in the sort of one-on-one romantic, like merging with someone else. But like 8th house intimacy is more complex than that. It's like sharing what's beneath the surface, such that it makes other people feel safe around you in a way that goes beyond just you being strong and like, I'm a good listener and I can show up and be strong for you. Sometimes sometimes the really hard part is like allowing other people who have their own strengths that maybe you haven't given them a chance to show you, can contribute to you. So that's kind of how I would look at this. So I'm really curious now to go to the Kim Krantz deck and see what these alchemy cards can maybe add to tie the message together further. The first thing we're going to look at is the silver card as the underlying energy. I find that it helps to get the underlying first if we're going to go directly to the guidebook. So silver is lunar, reflective, chrome. Turn this background noise off. Amidst its upper echelon status, silver shines eternally in second position. It is the lesser sibling, the one that's not quite there yet. A true alchemist does not resist this truth, but rather studies its subtle implications and its wisdom. Silver requires polishing, or the surface tarnishes over time. Mirrors require cleaning, or the image clouds and distorts, whereas gold sustains its own malleable radiance. Silver asks for our participation. We must work at it. Don't give up now. Silver wants to build relationships. Like the moon, a mirror, or a poem, let it reflect an image back. With an open heart and one more moment of willingness, the seemingly cold, stark surface of silver opens into the imaginal realm. What is there? Your own vastness? The mysteries that beckon you on moonlit nights? Through our daily devotion to silver, we find the truest gold. Very interesting. So, I guess the thing that's jumping out to me right off the bat is we must work at it, and silver wants to build relationships. It wants us to participate. I guess that's the bottom line of this message. We have the little side notes that Kim Krantz likes to put in her explanations, and it's a little thought that sometimes can add extra nuance where you might not see it in the message. And she adds here, silver is mirror-like, cold and dense. How do these qualities affect the surrounding cards in the reading? How does silver reflect onto the others? Silver is known as the metal of the moon, and the brain is known as the silver organ. Therefore, meditation is key to unlocking this metal's secrets. Okay. So we got that underlying energy. We're going to go to coagulation first because that is what came out first. Coagulation is known as one of the 8 operations in alchemy. It's in the final section of her alchemy guidebook. Coagulation, solidity, adherence, stuckness. Coagulato is the great alchemical operation of earth. By way of this operation, we experience that which was fluid churning into a solid formation. The formerly disparate ingredients begin adhering together into a fixed and solid unit. The result is visible, reliable, and eventually concrete. When you hear the phrase, "it is finally taking shape," coagulation is underway. The shadow aspect of coagulato is that the elements may have come together without much awareness, and in turn they become unconsciously attached. Inertia and resentment set in. The parts can no longer separate, even if they wish to. Many long-term relationships have coagulato aspects, a naturally occurring codependency by which both parties feel unseen or unknown as individuals. The work of coagulato is to experience the merging with other while not losing oneself in the mush. When this card appears, the alchemist must discern whether the earth element is helping or hindering the work. Is the attachment one of benevolence or convenience? Sulfur and lead are agents of coagulato. Take note if these cards appear in the same reading, as it would indicate an advanced state of stuckness. So luckily here we don't have that. I think the thing that jumps out here is going to the 8th house. We've now seen that this card is asking us about our relationships and the parts that adhere that might seem stuck, that could stand to be reconfigured. Are we in a pattern of codependency? Are we able to skate that balance between the 8th house themes of merging with the other, like experiencing true intimacy and true bonding while still retaining this right here, that sense of inner authority? Because after all, I think that can be the challenge for everyone in relationships, including friendships. And so I really take this to mean like an assessment, truly going back to these energies of 8th house and 10th house, like merging and autonomy. Like, are we able to assert our individuality in the group, whether it's a partnership or a friend group or a work environment or a community group of any sort? Do we have a strong sense of self, like that strength, like that isn't just like the visible, courageous one, but it's also the vulnerable one? But is the vulnerable one, while still being strong enough to understand your own sense of separation from the whole, to actually meaningfully contribute as this King of Pentacles, as energetically self-sufficient and actually having energy to contribute? That requires a sense of authority that risks being sort of like standing up in a crowd as like sort of a one, I guess a one, how do I put it? Like you might have to go against the group. In other words, like in order to meaningfully contribute to the group, you can't be afraid to assert your independence and your sense of individual authority and autonomy, because really that's what the group's relying on you for. Like, nobody wants somebody that's just agreeable and then has resentment afterwards because they themselves didn't have the courage to assert themselves in the group. The group assumes that you will speak up when your unique perspective or point of view, when you clearly have something to add. And in refusing to do so, you not only create resentment within yourself, but you're also not you're not being vulnerable to the group, like, because there is something vulnerable about speaking up in whether it's to someone that you love as a friend or a partner, like romantically, and speaking up and offering a perspective that might not be there and is needed for the best outcome. That is kind of vulnerable because you're sort of asking that other person or those other people to still accept you. And so that's kind of tying in like the inner authority there. And this silver, like asking us to participate, like to be a meaningful participant in the group and consider what's being reflected back. Like, am I maybe dissatisfied with the status quo of my life? And, or another way to put what's being reflected back, because what I'm putting in there is simply maybe where I could stand to change things. Like, you might, it wouldn't be unfair to say that often in like a partnership or a group dynamic, what you are receiving is just sort of like a reflection back of what you're giving. And it's usually like not even a conscious process we're doing. It's not like necessarily someone's just serving you back your own energy. It's just like a natural part of like the mechanics of exchange, emotionally, energetically, and otherwise. So maybe think about that. And last, we're going to go to this calcification card and see what this is about. This is also one of the 8 operations, interestingly. And this comes before coagulation. So, yeah, I guess in theory we could have read that first, but I prefer to read them in the order that they come out because I just find that there's some sort of like, there's something helpful about doing that. So, calcification, heat, fire, desire. Calcinatio is the great alchemical operation of fire. It occurs when there is enough heat in the vessel to transform the nature of that which is solid or fixed. How does calcinatio begin? With a tiny glimmer, an urge, a desire that builds into a robust flame. On a psychic level, the stage may be an uprising of emotion that has been repressed or dismissed. It wants something big to change, to be brought to the light and purified. Perhaps a flawed ideology, institution, or outlook. Frustration and anger are wondrous change makers if their heat is channeled with space, time, and awareness. The transformation that occurs from calcinatio is rarely harmonious. It requires commitment and a willingness to sit through discomfort as old patterns fall into the ashes. The flame initiates sacred change, and eventually the phoenix rises. And we've got fire has been used in rituals across all cultures, religions, and eras. Honor the element of fire today in a literal or metaphorical way. Well, it looks as if we have that covered over here. And then a last thought, the divine flame resides within, and it is yours to tend to. That said, doing so patiently and with support will lead to change that is holy rather than hasty. So I think that's actually, now I kind of understand why, despite this coming first, this is the first of the 8 operations, and this is like a couple steps down of the 8. But I do find it encouraging that this was the closing message, because ultimately it suggests that if you are in a stuck place, which would be here, sort of reigniting that fire, like going back to the idea of strength and sort of courage and vulnerability being 2 sides of the same coin. And we go to the idea of calcification and like adding heat and fire, like passion, desire, back to the equation. It suggests that we can easily get unstuck. It's almost as if like this here is the way to get to this, you might say. And if I was gonna, group some more things together, I would maybe put these 2 as going hand in hand. And, I might even put these 2 guys here as like the status quo, like, as these being concurrent energies, it might say that a place like this, a sense of stuckness with King of Cups upright and King of Pentacles upright, well, that seems kind of curious. You're like, well, what's the problem? Well, there obviously is something missing there because we had this. So again, this message, you take it how it resonates for you, but I don't think it's too hard to understand how there's no shortage of examples in like the allegorical sense, but also in real life, looking around, maybe just people that you know or people that you've come across, or maybe even yourself at times. Sometimes you having everything to offer and you knowing it, you saying, well, I have all this to offer, and I'm on these dating apps, and like I know I have, like, I've got my finances in order, and I can provide emotional support, but you still feel a place of stuckness. Maybe there's like an element of vulnerability missing. Maybe other people, while they might not come off, they might not reflect back to you the same qualities that you are sure that you have to offer, and are probably correct. But maybe that's not the point. Maybe the point, we can go back to the 8th house, and maybe we go to dare, take a risk and fly. Maybe the risk is actually something less of like you giving and providing and like showcasing what you have, and maybe it's more of like opening yourself up more and letting someone else show what they have to offer you in a way that you didn't even know that you needed. So I hope this message was helpful. I hope everybody has a great remainder of their Venus Cazimi and their Moon conjunct Uranus. I hope this, it's surely past 7:05 now, so maybe this reading will be the sort of catalyst for the Moon conjunct Uranus energy that you needed. Maybe the emotional reset and sort of the rewiring and creating new synapses in your brain, that spark of genius that Uranus is associated with. Maybe this reading can be that for you. Take care of yourselves until next time.